Hello and welcome to this week's Productivity Enhancer, which is part 2 of sheet metal in SolidWorks. So we're just going to pick up right where we left off here. Next, we can add an edge flange by going to Sheet Metal, Edge Flange, and we're going to select this edge right here. And when we create edge flange, it creates it and we can drag it out just like it's an extruded boss or base. And let's go ahead and make it 35 millimeters. The default angle for the edge flange is going to be 90 degrees, which is 90 degrees from this edge. As you can see, it juts out 90 degrees. We'll leave it at 35. We want the material to be outside, and we don't need to worry about any of these custom bend allowances or relief types. But before we accept it, we want to go to Edit Flange Profile, and by doing that, it gives us this little profile sketch. The sketch is valid. We're not going to worry about that right now. What we do want to worry about is the inside of these edges. We want to just drag in, and we can dimension them later. So we'll just hit back, and that takes us back to the Edge Flange Property Manager. We also want to offset this a little higher. So back in our flange position, we just click Offset, and that'll offset it up in this direction. If you want to offset down, you can obviously change that direction, but we're going to offset it up and set the distance to 15 millimeters. And once that edge flange is created the way we want it, accept it, and there it is. We can mirror that edge flange very simply just by mirroring it around the right plane. And instead of bodies to mirror, we're going to make sure that it's features to mirror because we don't want the whole thing mirrored, just this one feature. Accept it, and it shows up on the other side. We can add a tab to this side here. We just mirrored this edge flange, and now we can add to it just by right-clicking on it. Open up a sketch, and we can sketch a rectangle off into the graphics area like that. Once it's dimensioned, let's see, we'll make this 25, 75, and then we can select the midpoint of this line, and then make those coincident to line them up, make it centered. Perfect. Once that tab is where we want it, we can go back to our sheet metal and base flange tab. And just by clicking OK, it automatically finds the width of that tab, and there's nothing you have to change. Everything is all good unless you want to change it. Next, we can put a bend in this new tab just by opening up a sketch again and going and sketching a horizontal line somewhere here. Doesn't matter how long it is, but it does need to be parallel with that edge. Hit OK, and then if you want the bend in a specific location, you can dimension that with 12 millimeters, and then we have a nice line that we can bend around. So exit the sketch, back in our sheet metal tab, sketched bend, and there you have a nice bend in that tab. So let's grab our isometric view. Next, what if we need a slot that goes right down the center of this flange and into the body of the main part? You're not going to want to sketch on all kinds of different planes. You can see we have this angle, and then 90 degrees for the flat bottom. So to make it easy, all we do is unfold, and that'll unfold this entire flange here. So the fixed face, we just want to be this, and then the bends to unfold, we just grab the bend, and it will unfold. So now we can just sketch the slot as we want right here, and then extrude cut it all the way through. So to do that, we just open up a sketch. Maybe grab a rectangle tool. Let's do our normal view here. And we just sketch a rectangle. I'm going to want this to have a tangent arc on the end. And we can trim away this part right there. So let's go ahead and dimension this. We want this to be 15 millimeters. We want it to be 15 millimeters from that point. And we extrude cut through all, and there we go. There's our cut. So now when we fold this bend back, that cut will be exactly where we want it to. So let's go do that. Sheet metal, fold. This is going to be our fixed face again, and the bend is going to be the bend that we want folded. So the exact opposite of unfold. There we go. Next, let's take a look at our corner treatments here. But first we need to have an edge flange come off of this edge here. And we're going to drag it up, maybe about there, and change the angle this time. Let's change the angle to 75 degrees. Jut that out just like that. Once again, we want the material outside. And let's just take a look to make sure that our heights are going to match. Looks pretty close. Let's stick with it and accept it. So if you take a look here, we have a big gap where that edge flange is jutting out, and we have this vertical edge where we can put a corner on it. So So we're going to grab a closed corner and work that closed corner right off of this face here. And if we zoom in, you can see that we have both of these faces butting up edge to edge. If we select overlap, then you can see that the corner overlaps out, and we can also make the edge flange overlap the corner. But we're going to stick with a butted corner and leave all of these selections selected. Click OK, and there we have our corner. We can also put some simple holes right in the sides of these. We can change the depth, or we can just make it through all, and then we can change the diameter. Let's make that 20. We can also add some draft if we want to, but that's not necessary, so let's just click OK. And there we have holes going right through. We can put another simple hole on the other side. Make sure that that's through all. And there we have some nice ventilation. So obviously sheet metal means that this is one piece of metal that's been folded with all of these creases and holes and tabs made in the manufacturing process. So if we do want to see this one piece flattened out, all we do is hit flatten, and that will flatten our entire piece, showing us where all of the bends and creases are, and then it's ready to be exported into a drawing. Hit flatten again and it will unflatten it, or if you just want to unsuppress that flat pattern, it'll do the same exact thing. And again, we can suppress it to bring back our part. So that's how you design a part that you know is going to be sheet metal in SolidWorks, and they give you all these fantastic tools to make it happen. The other way we can utilize the sheet metal tools is by converting solid bodies into sheet metal parts. So let's just go ahead and check out this part that I've created. There's nothing special here, it's just an extruded thin based on this sketch right here. However, we can easily convert this into sheet metal just by clicking Convert to Sheet Metal, and that pulls up our Convert to Sheet Metal property manager. Under Sheet Metal parameters, we're going to select this face right here to be our fixed entity. For our bend edges, we're going to select all of the edges that have bend. We have our standard radius of 1 millimeter for all the bends, and our thickness is set to 1 millimeter because that was the dimension of the thin upon extrude. So we go down, and we don't need to rip any of these edges apart or rip any of the sketch entities. Nothing is going to be butting up against anything else, so we don't need to worry about any of these corners. So let's just go ahead and accept it, and by doing that, it's converted into a sheet metal part in our feature manager tree, under which is stored the part, and then the convert to solid, that's where we have all of our bends. So just like that, we've converted a regular part, a solid body, into a sheet metal part. And finally, I'd like to show you that we can also convert a shelled extrude into a sheet metal part as well. So right here, I just have a regular boss extrude. Again, nothing fancy. We're just going to go ahead and shell this part out. We're going to shell this top face, make it 1 millimeter thick, and there we go. Our part is shelled. Now, in order to convert this into sheet metal, we go to our sheet metals tab. First, we're going to want to rip these corners apart. So, grab our rip tool and just select each one of these corners. We're going to want a gap of 2 millimeters in here so we don't have any of these bends intersecting. So once we accept that, then this part is ripped and ready to be converted into sheet metal. So for our fixed entity, we're just going to select the bottom part. The bend edges are going to be all of these edges here. And when we accept it, our part is then converted into sheet metal. We have all of our bends here. And then we can weld these ripped corners by going to Corners, Welded Corner, and the corner to weld. We'll just select each of these corners. You can see it puts a nice little welded corner in there. Accept that. Accept that. Accept that. And accept that final corner, and there you go. We have our nice welded sheet metal box. We can flatten it just like always and get it back. So there's obviously lots more that you can do with sheet metal. These are just some basic parts, but I just wanted to run through all of the options that you have at your disposal. So thanks for watching this week's Productivity Enhancer. I hope it's been helpful. Until next time.